Hi, and welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast. I'm your host, Jody, and I created the show to have honest, candid conversations about mental health in an effort to help reduce the stigma. I will be issuing a trigger warning before each show, as many of the topics we discuss may be highly sensitive for some. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please reach out to somebody, go to your local hospital, or call a crisis line. In the United States, you can call 1-800-273-8255. In Canada, 1-833-456-4566. On today's show, we'll be discussing PTSD with Firefighter Carl Waggett. Now, let's get into the show. Today, we are discussing PTSD with my good friend, Carl Waggett. Hey, Carl, what's going on?
Well, thanks so much for having me on the show, Jody. This is fantastic.
Always.
Yes, no, it's really exciting because let's be honest, it's a subject that most people, well, they really don't want to talk about. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be discussed, especially in today's day and age with the rate of mental health incidents going through the roof.
Well, this is it. I mean, human beings are always learning new stuff about themselves, right? They're always doing this. And look, we've seen this from the physical aspect from the 1950s to till now. Human beings have been evolving. I mean, I always kind of use this example, but you look at weightlifters, okay? You take a picture of a weightlifter in the 1950s compared to a weightlifter in 2019.
Yeah.
And you can get the image, right? So
Yeah.
now the big question here is does a guy in 2019 work harder than the one in 1950? Well, probably not, right? They've got better technology. They've got supplements. They eat better. They understand all this stuff. So, this exciting progress with human beings have been going on. I mean, look at Michael Phelps when it comes to swimming. I mean, how many gold medals does a guy have, right? But what I think is so exciting about this is we're starting to understand the same thing from the mental capacity too. And, it's really starting to come from this sports thing because you look at the amount of money that people pay for professional athletes now. Well, it's incredible, right? Well, I don't care.
Phenomenal amount of money. I follow soccer, and so when
my word,
the transfer levels in soccer, people are getting paid like 500 million euros.
Yeah,
you could buy an entire hockey team for that much. It's astounding.
And just for one player. So, these, you start to understand that, okay, it's not a game when it gets to that level. It's actually a business. So if you invest 500 million euros in an individual, what happens when that individual doesn't want to get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, exactly.
So what do we do now? Okay, we can train human beings to be physically strong, but now we're starting to understand that the thing that's running the whole program is your brain, right? And that's one thing nobody ever really talks about. So no, the opportunity to come on shows like yours, Jody, I won't turn them down.
Oh, good, because I'll have you back on again after this.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what, I can always tell right out of the gates, hey, if you're ever short somebody for doing a show, just call me. I'll pop on anytime, no problem.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be great, for sure. Okay, so tell me a bit about yourself. You're a firefighter, you said. Where are you?
Well, yeah, I live in Cambridge, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, you're not even far from me.
Is that right?
I'm in Mississauga.
Oh, well, there you have it. See, it's a small world when you really look at it, right?
Yeah, it really is.
So, me personally, look, I never grew up with any of this mental health stuff. I have to be honest with you. Look, my father came over from England in 1971. He's a millwright by trade. So, look, I was taught very early that if something hurts, you rub dirt on it and then you get back in the game, right? We don't talk about feelings. But what's interesting is we're starting to understand, like I said, that, okay, we understand more about the human brain. Well, guys, I never studied this in school. Okay, I didn't. I know politically correct. We should understand mental health, but look, I'm busy paying a mortgage, paying electrical bills, whatever, right? I'm not studying mental health. Well, it wasn't until this stuff started to affect me. And what I found so interesting about it wasn't, okay, fine, the symptoms were there. The symptoms are there for a reason, right? You recognize them, but very few people recognize them in themselves. Right? You'll recognize it in other people. Absolutely. Like you look at Ted at work there. He hasn't slept in a week and a half, right? Look at him. He looks terrible, but we'd never turn that kind of judgment on ourselves, right? Yeah. And say, oh my God, I haven't slept, right? Well, anyways, what I started to notice was, look, bottom line, my life was just coming apart. That was really it, right? I wasn't having fun. I just went through a divorce, right? I've got this wonderful job that I really, really love, working for the fire department and all that, but I can't find any happiness anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
depression and everything, it steals.
Yeah.
Its biggest thing is it steals your ability to feel joy.
That's correct. Yeah. And I didn't realize this. Now, the interesting thing is okay, look, I've always kind of suppressed feelings and not talked about feelings and all that. But whether we like to admit it, feelings control our entire existence.
Oh, for
It's
sure. Yeah.
exactly right. So the problem is when we're constantly trying to suppress these things, as I did, please, this is what I did. Well, sometimes it'll come back to bite you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what happened, right? So, obviously, like you said, with depression, I always thought it was a sad thing, but what it does is takes joy away. Well, once I started to notice that I couldn't get any joy out of life, this is when I started spending big money. Okay, and not that I had it. Okay, this is when people start driving themselves into debt. Right, like, well, maybe if I buy a new car, I'll feel better, or maybe if I get myself a new outfit, or
Yeah.
if I go away and sit on a beach and destroy my liver for a week, maybe all my problems will be gone when I come back. And guys, I did this. Like, I actually did this. So not only am I fighting this PTSD, depression, anxiety, well, now I'm in debt. Okay.
Yeah, I
Now
hear you.
this sucks. Okay, this is not where you want to be. And then when a marriage falls on top of that, well, you find out a new level of debt. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So the thing is that even though I kind of suppress this whole mental health thing, guys, we can't deny our feelings. Look, you can act as tough as you want. I don't care how tough you are. If you feel awful all the time, that's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters. Seriously, if being rich stopped depression, nobody wealthy would ever choose suicide. It would never happen.
Exactly.
Right, but it seems to happen all the time. Now, this is interesting because once we start to understand more about the brain, we can understand behaviors. But we really start to go up against this whole, well, this is what we did in the past mentality. Okay, and this is terrible in the fire service. Tradition is everything in the fire service. So look, incredibly, right? So look, if this guy over here could handle the stuff they've seen, you should be able to handle it. Well, the problem comes is when guys like me go, well, that guy's been divorced 3 times and he's got a terrible drinking problem and he has 0 friends. I don't want to be like that. Like I love my job, but I don't want to end up like that. No disrespect, right?
Oh, for sure. No.
Right. No disrespect. I mean, please, these older boys are the ones that taught me about the fire service. Like, please, I owe them everything. But the fact is that there's a new player on the field. Okay, and it's called knowledge. And when people get backed into a corner, look, they start studying. Okay, because whether you fear or whatever, it really doesn't matter. And this is what I did, because after going through a separation, a parent really understands what it's like to lose their children. Whether it just be for a week on, week off, it doesn't matter. The fact is that now your kids aren't with you. So that was still fresh in my mind. And unfortunately, what really happened at our department was one of my good friends. He decided to choose suicide. So,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
well, yeah, and trust me, this guy was the Dalai Lama of the fire department. His name was Gene Wininski. I mean, the guy was 6'4". He was 230 pounds. The man was a golden god. Like, seriously, if I looked like Gene Wininski, I would never wear a t-shirt. This guy looked incredible. He went through a separation, but he was a single man. And look, everybody wanted to be Gene. If anybody had a problem, they went to Gene and they talked to Gene, and Gene would always take time to talk to us. Well, I guess hindsight's 2020. We never really understood why Gene worried about everybody else's feelings. Well, for the simple reason that, he felt terrible most of the time.
Yeah.
Right. And look, I'm not saying that the suicide had anything to do with depression, anxiety, PTSD. I'm not getting into that. But the fact was, my really good friend couldn't see how beautiful he was. He lost that ability. And after that happened, I remember thinking, okay, look, I got all the same symptoms here. And I'm sorry, if this thing could take out Gene Wininski, this thing will take me out in half a second.
Yeah.
So I had a decision to make, right? I've got this incredible job, which is the fire service, right? Now, do I ask for help, which is, it's political suicide? Or sorry, it's your job suicide is what it is, right? Like, if you ask for help in the emergency services, there's this kind of weird look at you. Now, don't get me wrong, it's changed a lot in 2 years, but the fact is after knowing what it was like to lose my kids, I wasn't willing to do that again. And if I had to work in a fast food restaurant for the rest of my life, then so be it. I'd do that. Whatever. I don't really care. Right. But that was the decision I made. Well, I think the biggest reason I do the podcast and the Facebook Live and all the stuff that I do on the side is to let people know that they don't have to make that decision. Okay. You don't have to follow it all the way down like I did. You don't have to go to the drinking problem and the divorce and not why you can't find happiness. You don't have to go that far. If we can start to notice some of these symptoms, okay? And I'm not saying that nobody out there doesn't feel any kind of depression or anxiety. Please, that's life. It throws it at us every single day. But when this depression or anxiety or this PTSD starts to be a little too much to manage, you don't have to fight this stuff on your own. Like, seriously, there's some really, really, really smart individuals out there that know exactly why this stuff happens. Right. And if we can utilize their information, well, what that does is it stops a person from being backed into a corner. Okay, and that's the most dangerous time for a person, because look, when a person is backed into a corner, it's no different than an animal, right? It turns into a dangerous situation, and at that point, when they're backed into a corner, they're no longer thinking. Well, they're simply reacting.
Yes.
Right, and you can't. It's very difficult to live on this planet always reacting. I did that.
Yeah,
Right.
I have borderline personality disorder, and that's
Oh,
one of the
okay.
huge things, is to be able to control reactions, because they're so ingrained for so long that they're just pretty much instinctual. So I
Oh,
can react to something before I know I'm even reacting to it. So there's not that chance yet to stop it. You know
well,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? So it
yeah.
just goes like so fast.
I do. And this is the reason why I love talking about the subject, because look, anybody who has their full capacity of mental health, okay, if you have your mental health, everything in check, it's nothing you ever think about. Like it's not something that you ever think you're going to lose either. Right. But the problem is when stuff starts going a little bit different, well, fear kicks in and we go, oh, it's nothing. Everybody worries about stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. But if we can realize that it's not half as scary as what we think it is, and there's actually help for it. Right.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to crack the top of your skull open and operate on you. It's nothing like that. Right. But it's just, well, it's teaching you how to process information just a little bit differently. That's it.
hmm And I
Right.
think also sometimes there's the intimidation and embarrassment factor with, going to the doctors for mental health, especially for men. And
Terrible.
I think that's why peer support is becoming so huge, because it's one thing to go to a doctor who says, okay, well, you have this and take these meds and you should feel better in 6 weeks. It's another thing to speak to someone who has PTSD, who has gone through the same nightmares and reactions and feelings as you do. You feel definitely not as alone. You feel like you have a community around you, compared to if you just have a doctor that's a good support system, but it's not enough.
Well, I hate to bring up this analogy, but it's like a bar fight, right? You want as many friends as you can get. Like
Yeah,
seriously, you don't want to
yeah,
go into this fight by yourself. Like
yeah.
you just don't, right? And me personally, what I did was when I was recruiting a support system, because I'm a guy, right, and we don't get support. That's not what we just don't do that, right? And especially guys in the emergency services, for the
Yes.
simple reason we help. Okay, we don't get help.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're manly men.
well, it doesn't work that way. Like, I'm sorry, but we help, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
see no benefit to you helping us. It's not a tough thing or anything. We just don't see the point to it, right? So when this mental health thing comes, unfortunately, we take the same attitude, right? But this is not a
hmm
this is not a sprained ankle. Okay,
Yeah.
this is your brain. This runs everything. Okay,
hmm
so so the problem is I would put the brain in the same category as a twisted knee. He just like I mean it's dangerous stuff, right?
Yeah.
For me personally, and especially with the stereotype of, well, the men, let's be honest, right? How are you ever going to ask for help when it's something that you can't figure out inside your own head, when a man won't even ask for directions? Like,
Yeah. No, I know. I
got,
hear you.
got,
Yeah.
got to be kidding me. All right, look, if this is my problem, I should be able to figure this out. Now the problem is that mentality that can drag you out over a couple of decades of misery.
Yes, absolutely.
Unfortunately, right? And if there's one thing that I can tell all the listeners, you don't get a gold star for figuring this out on your own. Okay. You don't, your life isn't any better if you spend a decade trying to figure this stuff out, besides going to a therapist or a doctor and getting it sorted in like 6 or 8 months. And at least knowing what you're fighting. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. I think once people know what they're fighting, they can fight it.
Absolutely. You're not going in blind.
Well, that's the way I went in. I went in entirely blind, right? Thinking, oh yeah, no, I got this, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, I don't got this. Now where do I go, right? And if people realize that, hey, you know what, my sleeping, it's really going. I don't know what's going on with it. If we can understand that and stop that at the beginning stages before that, goes into something else, because that's what it usually does. It bleeds into other stuff, right? Like, depression can sometimes bleed into substance abuse because you're just looking for some kind of feeling.
Yeah,
Anything. Like you don't really
absolutely.
care, right? As long as it's something. So, when you're dealing with your brain, like I said, oh, you got to keep pardon the pun, you're going to have to keep an open mind. Like you have to, right? You have
hmm
to.
And remember, it's a team fight. It really is. You can't take it on your own.
Well, you can, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Look, there's a ton of people out there that have fought depression, fought anxiety, fought PTSD, and won. And they have. Like, and I'm not saying this can't be done, right? That's not the point that I'm getting at, because I think when you tell people they can't fix their problems, it's like, oh shit, now I can, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is that once you understand it's a winnable fight, I don't think anybody minds fighting. Like, please, we fight every day, right? Seriously, we get
Yeah.
up, we don't really want to. Well, can you
hmm
imagine if you were fighting towards something that was making you better? Like, How much more fulfilling would that be to go through that pain and anguish, but know that it's for something?
Yes, absolutely. That there's an end result that's positive.
Exactly right. So the problem with this mental health thing is it didn't matter what I did. I didn't feel like I was helping anything. So what's the point? I might as well just sit on the couch, watch episodes of Ren and Stimpy, and drink my red wine and call it a day. But, but we actually, believe it or not, we actually have the power to change the way we see our reality. Like we have that choice. And it's not easy. Like, please don't get me wrong. It's not something you're just going to do tomorrow. But if you understand that you have that capability, it sends you on this different journey. All right. And I find what this depression, this anxiety, this PTSD, what it'll do is it'll hold you down. Okay. And it'll hold you down. And think about it. If you're scared or you're being hurt, are you running around? No, you're pretty much hunkered down, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right. So the problem is that when we adopt that mentality that, okay, look, if I move anywhere, I'm going to get hurt, we just stay in our house. We never leave. Right. Mm-hmm. But if we know that we're fighting towards something, okay, look, maybe going outside is uncomfortable for us. Okay, that's fine. That's no problem, right? But I don't mind being uncomfortable as long as I know I'm getting something for it. My biggest problem was being outside and uncomfortable, not knowing it had anything to do with mental health. Why would I fight back against that?
Right.
Don't do things naturally hard. We do things the easiest way we possibly can. And the problem was, and my problem. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I have a friend who runs Sick Not Week, and he's actually been doing work with the Toronto Fire Department and the chief down there, giving speeches and teaching people about mental health and saying that it's okay to talk and kind of encouraging peer support amongst each other.
This is something that people have to understand with the fire service. Okay, look, we have no problems asking for help. We get a fire, we call extra engines in all the time. Look, if we need our roof done, we call people, no problem, right? We don't. That's what we do, right? We ask for help constantly. But the thing is, we're not going to ask for help that we don't think there's a solution to.
Right.
So you can go into all these fire halls and all these police departments and tell people, oh, you're fine to ask for help. You're fine to ask for help. But I guarantee you, I've sat on that side of the room and okay, well, great. What am I asking for help for? Mental health. Okay, can we be a little bit more specific here? Like you got to understand these men and women that are dealing with this, they're terrified. All right? Yeah. You sit there and say, oh, well, it's okay to ask for help. As far as I was concerned, I found that very patronizing because I know I can ask for help, but what am I asking for help for? What is going wrong with me? I don't understand. Mm-hmm. Right. So, understand, like I've been a firefighter for 15 years. Right. So you start to understand the psychology of these guys. And trust me, they got no qualms asking for help. All right. But they're not going to ask for help for something they don't think there's help for. And all they ever keep asking is, OK, well, just ask for help. OK, but where? Like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's say I'm working Toronto Fire. I'm a captain. I've been on the job 23 years. I got 7 years till I retire. I got 2 kids that need to go to university. OK, I'm going to ask for help for what? Like I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't get where you're getting at. And so this is it. So this is why I started the podcast that I do, Bunker Gear for Your Brain, for the simple reason that these people in the emergency services, they desperately want this help, but they don't know how it helps. And I think if we start to understand, how our brain reacts and why it's getting the information it's getting and why we feel this rage all the time, then guys, we can do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You can't fight what you don't know.
But you know what? It is. It's very, very easy to stand up and say, okay, look, you guys need to ask for help. And that's what I did on my podcast. Every single podcast I release, I think to myself, okay, whoever's listening to this doesn't want my help, but they need it. So how am I going to get this point across to them? Because, these guys are scared. Like, please don't get me wrong. We feel fear like everybody else. All right. Like, we're not kept behind these big glasses that say break in case of emergency. Most of these people have families, they have loved ones, right? Like they are normal human beings. That's it. But the problem is that when we put a uniform on them, we don't look at them the same. We don't see them the same. Seriously. I have walked through a mall in uniform and then gone back 15 minutes later and walked through that same mall in, civilian clothes. Obviously don't turn the same heads, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So the thing is that I think once we start to understand that these emergency service workers are just human beings that just want answers, but they want answers. That's the biggest thing. Like, okay, why is it that when I get upset, my heart starts pounding and I start sweating? Right. But they don't understand that their body is releasing adrenaline into their body. All right. Now, these guys feel this at fires and car accidents and stuff like this. But why am I feeling it when I'm sat at the dinner table? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, why am I freaking out when my son spills his milk and it's just milk? Like, that's it. Why is it I can't sleep at night? That's a big one for us guys. Like it's huge, right? And when we start to understand that, okay, look, our mind comprehends stuff, right? And I find this absolutely fascinating that our mind comprehends everything, but 99.9% of the time, it doesn't. Okay, something gets lodged in the back of the brain, it doesn't understand it. So the brain has to keep going over and over and over again. Well, during the day, right, our five senses are really busy taking in information to tell us what our environment is. But what happens when we sleep?
Yeah, everything's shut down.
Everything shuts down, right? So guess what? The brain is no different than the guys at the firehouse. When the chief goes home, they watch movies, don't they?
Yeah.
That's what your brain does. It replays stuff that it's trying to figure out. Now, look, this may not wake you up, and you may not even know these dreams, but when something pushes an emotion in your brain, that will wake you up. All right. Now, I used to blame it as just getting up to go pee. Right. That's all. Okay, fine. I'm getting old. I got to get up and pee. But think about this. If you have broken sleep, okay, you wake up every 2 to 3 hours to go to the washroom, and you haven't had a good night's sleep in 5 years, how's that going to affect you?
I had a very traumatizing childhood, and I had for years difficulty sleeping through, and still to now, I don't think I've ever slept an entire night without waking up, 4 to 5 times because I'm hypersensitive to all the noise around me.
Yes, absolutely.
And it becomes draining, obviously, but your body tries to adapt, but it catches up eventually.
Well, I tell you what my real wake-up moment was, that I understood that this lack of sleep was affecting my health. I was walking around the house or whatever, and just to kind of timestamp it, on CNN they were talking about the definition of torture at Guantanamo Bay, right? And anyways, I wasn't listening to it. It was just on. And then I heard what they had was sleep deprivation torture. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll listen to this, right? Because I don't sleep, so let's see what's going on here. Right, exactly, right? So the U.S. government admitted that they define torture as waking up their criminals or the people that are detained every 2 hours. And I used to think, oh, my God, you know what? I have the same sleeping patterns as those prisoners. And I went, oh, wait a minute. If the U.S. government is classing my sleep pattern as torture, this is not good.
Yeah.
And this is when I started to research, okay, what is this lack of sleep doing besides being tired? Like just besides it? Well, I tell you what, it will shut down your metabolism in ways that you can't believe. So look, if you're out there and you can't lose weight and it doesn't matter what you're doing, have a look at your sleep. Like seriously, take a look at your sleep. Right? Because that's what nobody does, because you know what? That's a sign of weakness when we rest in our society, isn't it? Right? Like if you lie down and have a nap and somebody calls you, you know what? You're going to wake up and act like you weren't even sleeping.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to admit to resting. But look, ladies and gentlemen, we need it. And that's all there is to it. Look, I don't care how fast our world moves. That's irrelevant. The human body still needs the same amount of rest. It has to. Now, the problem is that we are now pushing everything so fast, like with the cell phones and the internet and everything. Look, nobody sleeps anymore.
Yep.
All we do is keep working. Okay. And now you'll notice with the emergency services, the fire department's gone to 24-hour shifts.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So the thing is look, not thinking about mental health at all, but just thinking about the bottom line, money. Look, the shift system, 24-hour shift, it's wonderful. That's great. You work 7 days a month. How is it for mental health? I don't know. I guess we'll see in 5 years when we study it. Right? That's what we do. That's what we don't know. But the one thing that I cannot get over, okay, is that a firefighter in Canada will make over $100,000 a year. Okay. And if they work 24-hour shifts, they only work 7 days a month. They get benefits, honestly, that a politician would blush at. That's how good the benefits are. Okay. So why is it that more firefighters are dying from suicide than actual fires? Why is it our divorce rate is 50%? Why is our substance abuse through the roof? We have a dream job. We make 6 figures a year. We work 7 days a month. So
yeah, see horror, though. You see things that other people don't see and deal with.
This is the thing. We're starting to realize that, okay, look, this does have effects on people, but as we're learning, okay, we can still see these horrors, but as long as we process it, okay, we're fine. Look, in the 1970s, okay, guys were dropping dead of cancer all the time because nobody wore packs in the fire service. All right. And it wasn't until the cities, until the lawyers or whatever came to the cities and said, look, if you guys aren't going to provide these guys packs, then I'm sorry, but we're going to have to sue. Well, the thing is, we understood that smoke now gives people cancer. So we make packs for people. Okay. So they're safer. If we start to understand what we're witnessing is affecting our day-to-day personal life, then guys, we can change that too.
Yeah.
Because look, I got a real problem with emergency service workers, military, correctionals, Coast Guard, nursing. They all dedicate their lives to helping other people all the time, but their own personal lives become destroyed because of it. And I'm not good with that. Like really, that really bothers me because look, I've sat in fire halls with people that go, you know what, my whole life is coming apart. You know what, I'm on my second marriage. My kids won't even talk to me, but at least I'm a hero to these kids, right? And it's funny because when you hear that enough times, you start to realize that, look, these guys are just normal human beings.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary things. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I did 12 weeks of training when I got on the fire service. I knew how to do a dash roll on a car. I knew how to catch a hydrant. I knew how to run a fire truck. Do you think I knew how to process when something really bad happened and I saw a death in front of me?
No, absolutely not.
No. Do you realize we spent an entire week in training on prevention? Okay, that's not even our job. But we don't spend a week on understanding how our brain's going to process what we see. Interesting. So it's a bit of a wake up call, right? And we're starting to realize that, oh my God, you know what? This is really starting to affect people. Whether, okay, look, maybe, the top brass is saying, oh, suck it up. We dealt with it in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Okay, that's great. You did deal with it. But what if we could make things better?
What if you don't have to deal with it?
What if you don't have to? Everybody goes on about, emergency service workers should get paid like professional athletes, right? Because they sacrifice their life. Well, look, here's the thing. If you can get 100,000 people a night to watch me catch a hydrant in a fire, I will make what a professional athlete makes, right? Because there'll be TV rights, there'll be advertising, there'll be all this stuff. So look, even though we're not going to be able to do that for emergency services, why don't we give them the same mental capacity that professional athletes have? Like, think about it. Can you imagine the World Series, Game 7, standing on the mound? I wouldn't be able to pitch a ball. I'd pee my pants.
Yeah, me too.
Right? So what is it about these professional athletes that are able to keep their stuff together? It's incredible. Because like we were talking about the soccer player, why pay 500 million euros for somebody's right foot when they can't get out of bed because they're depressed?
Yeah.
So we really start to understand it. So, yeah, look, I'm all for, saying, look, ask for help. Look, I tell you, we ask for help all the time. The thing is, we have to get the real information of these guys, right? The real stuff. Why is it I'm not sleeping? Why is it that I get angry now at people when I never used to get angry at people? Like, what's going on here? What's happening with me? When you start giving
any sort of support group, like, how there's like AA and NA, do the firefighters have any sort of support group?
No. I mean, it's kind of what I'm doing with my bunker gear for your brain. Like, since I understood what the firefighters were like, look, I didn't go the traditional way. Oh, guys, you got to ask for help. Nobody's weak. Everybody keep talking. No. I know how these guys think. All right. And these guys want serious answers. So what I did was I started researching. Like, seriously researching the human brain. Like, why is it that adrenaline gets dumped into your body? What message is sent to your brain to figure this out? Because, guys, if we can understand this, okay, if we can understand and really comprehend that we're not our feelings, because, guys, we're not. Like, you have to understand that. There's a lot of guys out there that have worked in the emergency services for like 20 some odd years, and now all they do is yell at people. Look, that doesn't make you an angry person. Okay, your feelings are nothing more than a byproduct of information being sent to your brain. Mm-hmm. And look, and that system works out wonderfully right up until depression, anxiety, and PTSD gets involved. So look, watching somebody struggle with not being able to sleep or maybe an anger issue or whatever, it really doesn't matter. Watching them deal with that and not getting help for it is kind of like watching somebody walk around on a broken leg. And you say, geez, man, just get yourself to the hospital. Like, what are you doing over here?
Yeah.
Oh, no, my grandfather walked around with a broken leg. So
yeah, exactly.
No, it's stupid.
In 1973.
Yeah, it's so stupid, right? But when we start to really understand that, guess what? These people that are hurting from this stuff, they are normal human beings. They do extraordinary things. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but there's nothing different from their humanness to our humanness.
It's like actors. I think people forget, when you're rich and famous, that they come home and they have dinner and they go to the washroom like everyone else. They have showers. They watch Netflix. They have the same issues, just on a different level.
They do, and one thing that I really started to study when I went off with this PTSD was people that made it through extraordinary things. And how did they do that? Like, what was it that made them get through these awful things? Whether it be people stuck in POW camps in war, whether it be ships capsizing and people are stuck in the water for over 24 hours. The fact is, what was it in their mind that got them through that time? That's the kind of stuff I studied. So the last thing I did was waste my time telling people that you can ask for help. No, Let's get some intel. Let's get some stuff that you can really sink your teeth into here. Okay, because these guys are pit bulls. I'm serious. These men and women, the emergency services, once they get knowledge, they're gone. Like seriously. They will research the snot out of it. But the problem is until you give it to them in the right form, well, you're speaking in a different language. It's that simple. Trust me, I watch people come in talking about mental health. Like I watched it. Like seriously. People come in and, it's important to ask. Okay, yeah, I'll get on that. Thank you so much. Now, if somebody stood at the top of the front of the room and say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, who wants to be stronger? Who wants to be able to handle situations better? You'll see every room in that hand go up. Every hand in that room go up. I guarantee it. Because these are the same people that work out on shift. Like all they want to do is be stronger. Mm-hmm. Let's give it to them.
Absolutely.
Let's give them the information that they really, really need. Not from a patronizing standpoint of, look, no, you don't have to be soft to bring this up. No, listen, I get it, man. You're hurting with something. Look, I got some intel that's going to be able to help you. And then you can go off on your life and do whatever you want, right? Most people think that therapy is a life sentence. Oh, if I go for therapy once, I got to keep going. Well, no, that's crap, right? Once you get the information you have, you get back out there in life. And listen, when you come up against something in life that kind of confuses you a little bit, you come back and you learn about it. You don't run from it, right? And we don't in the fire service. Like, seriously, look, if a problem comes in, we don't look at it and go, oh, that's too big. We're not dealing with that one. We have to. That's our job, right? Here's the thing. Nobody else is coming. Okay, that's it. Unless they dispatch the military, that's it, right? It's all we have. So, when we start looking at this problem as a serious problem, okay, this is getting out of control now. Okay, the suicide numbers are through the roof. Like this is getting ridiculous. And when we look at how much these guys make, right, how much time they have off, that's not the problem. There's something else, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll hear from people all the time, whether somebody served in the fire service or the police or whatever. After about 30 years, they're a little bit different. Let's be honest, they've seen a different side of life. Well, what if you were able to see that side of life? Okay, that's fine. You go see that side of life. But when you come back to your family, you can sit and enjoy dinner with them. Because I couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
Ever. Okay, and that's adrenaline being dumped into you because you're scared. How much do you sit when you're scared? You don't. You pace. Well, that's all I did all the time. And I used to think it was great because I was burning calories. no comprehend what this was doing to my heart.
Right.
And it wasn't until I went and talked to a doctor because I was having really bad panic attacks. They put me in for a cardiologist. And the cardiologist sat down and said, okay, for starters, you're 30 years younger than every patient I have. Okay, so what's going on here? And I told him about the panic attacks. And that was the first time I've ever seen a doctor stop everything and say, look, you don't understand what you're doing to your body with this stuff. Okay, when this adrenaline's being dumped into your body, the wear and tear is incredible. And I never thought about that. Okay, look, here's a guy with a terrible diet, right? Terrible sleep. I can't sleep, but my heart's going like it's in a marathon all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't care how miraculous the human body is, how incredible of a machine it is. It's still a machine. Okay, you don't look after it, it's going to break.
Yeah.
All right, and if you got bad diet, bad sleep, and terrible stress, what we call that in our line of work? Job security. Because you're always going to be sick. Always. You got bad diet, you got bad sleep, you got high stress. How do you live a fulfilled life like that? Mm-hmm. All right, the food that you're putting in your body is making you feel like shit, right? Your body can't rest. It's so friggin' tired it doesn't know what to do. And then on top of it all, it's scared.
Yeah.
Oh, but exactly. You're supposed to live a happy life and a good marriage and wave at everybody when they wave at you. Are you kidding me? Not a chance.
Yeah.
And I think this is what's happening to a lot of people. So yes, even though there's help out there, absolutely there's help out there, let's figure out what kind of help we're asking for. Mm-hmm. That's what will help you.
Absolutely, yeah. That's mostly what you talk about, I'm presuming, on your podcast, right?
Yeah, really, to be honest with you, it's a lot of perspective talk. Because I really give credit to the doctors and the therapists. Look, I don't pretend to be one of those guys for a second. They study this stuff for like 10 years. It's incredible what they study, right? But what I deal in is perspective. Okay, because if you can't change the physical stuff in your life, look, let's say let's lay it all on the table here. Let's say you're fed up with your spouse, okay? Your kids are pissing you off, right? You don't like your job, your neighbor's driving you nuts. But the problem is you can't change any of this stuff. Well, look, if you find yourself in a situation where that is happening, you have to learn how to change the way you look at it.
Right.
Because it's your only option. Like, I'm sorry. And short of packing up and moving to another country, how are you going to fix this? And that was my biggest problem. That I used to think, okay, how can sitting and talking to somebody ever help me? Like, honestly, all right, maybe if that doctor went and talked to all the people that were pissing me off, maybe that would help me, right? I,
Yeah.
I don't see how this help is going to help me. So, like, and I keep going back to it, say ask for help all the time, but these guys don't see how help can help. How can possibly sitting in a room with a doctor help my marriage? And I'm sure you know how it can, and most people do, but when PTSD, depression, anxiety are knocking the snot out of your brain, trust me, you'll see it one way.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same with BPD. It's either black or white. There's not
Sorry,
many
yeah. So
shades of gray in the middle.
so you can bring any celebrity you want into a room and tell me to get help. I'm not why? It doesn't make sense. Until you start to understand how these doctors can help you, you're not going to go for the help. Seriously.
Yeah.
Right? Because as far as I was concerned, doctors are just like Hannibal Lecter, right? Not everybody out there talks to psychologists. Let's be honest. Anybody who charges $200 an hour, you don't go to very often, right?
No. Yeah.
So the problem is most of the general public don't even know what these people have to offer. Like they really don't, right? I bet if you were to count on one hand, you couldn't count the number of people who have actually sat and talked to a psychologist. I mean, maybe yourself because you're in this industry, but the average Joe out there, no, I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen. Where if we understand, look, that's where the salvation lies. That's where all the information is. Look, they'll beat the door down. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. They need the answers.
Well, yeah. And I mean, after being a firefighter for 15 years, I can kind of understand this. Would I be able to learn this in a book about firefighters? No, never. Come on. Right? You got to live with them. Right? You do. And it is definitely a different mentality for the simple reason, yeah, the stuff we see.
Oh,
That's
for
it.
sure. It has to be.
Yeah, it's really that simple, right? You can prepare all you want. I always just say this, that the only problem with studying training manuals is there's no screaming in a training manual. All right? You'll see the pictures, but you don't feel the emotion.
Hmm.
That's deep. Like that's really, really deep. And then you take an individual who has an enormous amount of empathy, somebody who can feel other people's feelings, then you have that person do that for 20 years.
Yeah,
You'll see how that works
exactly.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
It's so
start to
weighed down.
we start to understand how this stuff attacks us.
Yeah, that's for sure. How have you been managing yours?
Well, you know what? I think with anything, you manage it with knowledge.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Look, are you going to win every time? No, of course not. You can't. That's impossible, right? The only way that you're going to succeed in life is by failing a couple of times. So I think the biggest problem with this PTSD, depression, anxiety, when there's a relapse, when this stuff comes back, people freak out. It's like, holy shit, I can't do this again, right?
Hmm.
But the more that we understand what we're fighting, guys, we're so much more powerful than we think. I'm sorry, we have no comprehension what we're capable of. Okay, look, here's a fun little game to play. There's two parts of the brain, right? You've got the conscious brain and the subconscious, right? I think most people know that.
Hmm.
Now the conscious mind is, well, what you're using right now, right? Is consciousness, right? When we're awake, we use this consciousness. But what people don't understand is the subconscious is the one that runs everything else. Okay, your subconscious keeps your body temperature at the right level so you can survive. That's incredible. Think about that.
Yeah. I've always said it's kind of like human beings are never gonna figure out the full extent of the brain because they're limited to the brain to figure it out, if that makes sense.
Well, that's it. It's enigma wrapped in enigma,
Yeah.
right? And I think what's so interesting is the more that they study the human brain, the more it looks like the universe, which is so cool, right? And I'm not going to get into whole kinds of deep stuff there, but quantum physics is now starting to prove stuff that Tibetan monks knew 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, here's the thing: you're not limited to your job. Okay, this world that you live in, okay, that you feel trapped in, because trust me, that was the biggest feeling I felt, was always trapped. You have no idea your capability. Now the problem is that PTSD, depression, anxiety will tell you that that's not possible. So don't even try it. Like it's scary, it's unknown, and you should just stay in your house because
Yeah.
it's easier, right?
Stick with what you know.
Stick with what you know. But I always pose the question: how's that working out for you? If it's working out great, keep doing it. That's awesome. Dude, I'm not here to change your life. That's awesome, right? But if you've reached a point where you're like, okay, Carl, this sucks. Stop the ride. I want to get off. I've had enough of this crap. Well, we have help for that. And I think that's so cool to know that, right? Because I'll tell you what, you don't have to ask for it. I'll bring it to you. How does that sound?
Yeah, that makes life so much easier, especially for men.
Yeah, it just is. So, I always just say that, people used to come into the fire hall talking about mental health all the time. Look, I'll tell you what, you want to get their attention, ask them if they want to be stronger. They'll be like, what? Yeah, like, how would you like to be stronger, be able to do stuff better? Yeah, I'd like that. Okay, well, I might have something for you then.
Exercise your brain.
Yeah, instead of saying, oh, well, let's talk about our feelings. Okay, well, let's talk about them, but what's it going to accomplish? Because I'm sorry, you go to a car accident, all right, or a house fire. Do you really think the firefighters are having a board meeting to figure out how to do it?
Oh God, no. It's
No.
that's part of the conscience that's just put away.
Yeah, I'm
The
sorry.
fear's gone, everything's gone while you deal
Just
with
don't
the
do it.
crisis.
Yeah, so unfortunately, if you're trying to teach these people in the manner that this individual has learned mental health, you're wasting your time. You're not reaching them. Oh, you're booking engagements and you're talking, and that's awesome. That's great. But are you reaching them? I think that's where the real money is. And that's why the podcasts that I do are only 50 minutes long, right? Because I know what my attention span is. All right. And I know how busy life is. So look, here's the thing. Here's 15 minutes, some information, chew on that for a little bit. And that's why I do 3 shows a week. Look, it's a ridiculous schedule. Don't get me work, but it pays dividends. Really want to fix something. Do you want to fix it or do you want to dabble in it? Well, I want to fix it, right? So that's why I do 3 podcasts a week and 3 Facebook live shows a week, right? I'm on another radio show. I do private shows like this. I absolutely enjoy it because for the simple reason I know this is the information that these guys, they need it. Like they got to have it, right? It's killing them.
Do you ever think it'll be put into like I don't know, like a fire training school or whatever the hell you go to beforehand? Will they ever put like a mental health course in there?
Well, let me ask you this. If you were running a city, okay, and your emergency services sick time was at like 58% where everybody else's is at 16. Do you think they'd implement that in training?
Well, you would think so.
Just from a money standpoint. Just from an economic, just from a taxpayer standpoint. That's it. Right? Now, if we can get the cities to start implementing this training into the actual fire, then okay, that's great. We're laughing, right? Into police, dispatch, all that stuff. But the problem is that while we still talk about feelings, nobody's biting. When they start to realize how much money this mental health would save, you watch them jump then. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it works all the time, right? Stigma is only around when it doesn't cost anybody money. Okay? Think about a CEO at a Fortune 500 company, right? He's in charge of I don't know how many people's futures. Well, what happens if they go upstairs and they go into his office and he's pissing down elevator shafts, right? Like the guy's lost it. This guy controls people's futures. Look, do you think they're worried about stigma about getting a psychologist in? No, is the short answer. They'll have a team in there. No different than professional sports, really. You pay that much for somebody and they can't hit the strike zone in baseball or they can't kick a football. Well, what's the point in them even being here? Now, The thing is, the emergency services is starting to realize, okay, look, this isn't professional sports, all right? It's not that cutthroat, but we can't afford to pay for these people to be off sick. We have to figure out what's causing this. And I don't care if it's feelings or not, but we need to figure this problem out like now. And that's unfortunately until it gets to that stage, that's when you'll start to see it implementing and training, of course, right? Because if they can just give an individual a rough idea of how the brain works and what they're going to deal with, think about how that's going to save that city money over the next 30 years. Think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So look, let's park feelings for half a second, even though I feel they're incredibly important. And obviously I've expressed this in the show today. But look, if we're going to fix the problem, let's look at it from a dollar and cents standpoint. And that's when everybody will sit up and pay attention. I guarantee it.
Sad but true.
It's sad but true. And you know what? Look, I don't care what angle I get this information in. I'll go whichever angle it takes, but the information needs to get in the firehouses and the police departments and EMS centers, dispatch, all that stuff. Look, once this information gets in, then I'll back off. Then I'm done. Okay, cool. That's awesome, right? But until that happens, I won't stop.
Good.
Yeah, so there you have it, right? Well, listen, it's no different than a house fire, right? You keep putting it out. You don't just stop, right? You work till it's done. You don't see coffee breaks going on, right? So
I can't get this right now. I got to get a coffee. Can you just slow down the burn?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a 15-minute union break. Excuse me, I'm out of here, right? You know what I'm talking about. So unfortunately, I have the exact same mentality on this mission as well. Right? It's no different than how every firefighter deals with every situation. They run at it as fast as they can. And that's kind of what I've done with this mental health thing.
I think that's awesome because it's so needed. Like it really is so needed. And if it can start like a chain link eventually, then, we can get ahead of the game. I find that we're always learning from mistakes instead of trying to prevent them.
Well, yeah, we've been doing this since the beginning of time. Like I use the example of fire departments making all their firefighters wear packs. Look, we learned this in the 70s and the 80s with cancer. Like, people don't think it's going to happen again. And trust me, it'll happen again after this, and again. And that's how human beings do. We evolve, right? But when you get an individual that doesn't want change, that's when the whole system screws up. Right? Because no, we're not having any mental health and any information in here because because I didn't need it. Okay, well that makes no sense. I can't even understand how that makes sense. Right? Seriously, think about it. So, I'm kind of fighting for the common folk here, right? Because unfortunately, this information that these people need, like I said, there's $200 an hour. All right, there's people out there that can't afford cough syrup. You got to be kidding, right? So if it takes my time to do some podcasts and stuff like this to get this information out there to improve their lives, look, I don't want a dime for that because it helps me sleep at night, and I know how valuable that is.
Absolutely.
Seriously. That's worth more than any paycheck or any kind of function or anything like that, right? It's just
absolutely. There's a huge aspect of healing is giving back.
You have to.
That's just what it is.
Look, I'll guarantee if there's somebody out there really, really hurting, go to a homeless center and help. When you walk out of there, you see how you feel. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can go out on a drinking binge for 2.5 weeks, right? You're not going to feel as good as when you help somebody.
No.
I don't know why it works that way, but it's obviously there for a reason.
Absolutely. It's incredible satisfaction getting through to even one person can make your day,
Truly is.
So this is awesome. I'm so happy to have chatted with you. I'm definitely want to have you on again.
Wasn't this a lot of fun? I really enjoyed this. I really did.
Yeah, it was a great time. I learned a lot too, which is good.
Oh, good. Yeah, like I said, I didn't study any of this stuff growing up. To be honest with you, I thought it was all hogwash. I thought the only reason people brought up mental health in the emergency services was to get the summer off. Like seriously, that's all. That's what I thought it was for. But when I started to realize just how real and devastating this is, no, listen. I love those guys in the firehouse too much to let them go through this. Like seriously, right? Even though I have the intel and my life's going to be okay, that's awesome. I want these guys to have it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I find personally sometimes coming from a peer or someone who's experienced it, that it's going to be taken a little bit better than someone just coming in and lecturing or someone telling them from above.
Well, it's so true. Like, honestly, who knows more about a lion, a zoo vet or a lion?
Yeah.
Like, think about it, right? Sorry, but you can have somebody study something and then you can have the actual thing walk in and say, look, this is what I went through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, my friend, I'm going to wrap this up.
All right. Well, there you go. Listen, my problem is I could talk all day, right? So I need you to wrap it up.
I'll get you back on again. We'll have another PTSD chat.
I love it. Yeah, no, anytime. I'm at your disposal. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, my friend.
All right. And like I said, anytime you need somebody, give me a shout. I'm there.
Yeah, I will do. I'll send you a message for sure. And if you need anything, you know where I am.
Certainly will. Thank you so much, Jody. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You take care, Carl.
All right, bye now.
Bye.
Well, as we wrap up the show, I would like to give a special thanks to our guest, Carl Waggett, for sharing his time and his story with us. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. If you have any comments or questions or wish to be a guest on the show, you can message me at OneLastKick71 on Twitter, Jody BEE on Facebook, or through my website, jodybetty.com. Links can be found on the podcast website. Thank you for spending your time with us. Hopefully we can help to eliminate or at least reduce the stigma around mental health. Until next time, take care and be well.